Hi guys, I hope you guys are all having a pleasant morning. We are Finals 1, and to start with a little introductions, I'm Dylan, I'm the captain of Finals 1. We have Caleb, we have Nathan, Bryce, Jacob, and Michael. And before we get started, we just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to pen test your systems again. You guys it's such a pleasure to always have you as a client. So today we have a presentation prepared for you, kind of just gives you the overview of the entire engagement. So we'll be talking about assessment overview, things we encountered during our penetration test, compliance overview. We have some issues and concerns for compliance that we want to make you aware of. We have technical findings. These will be key findings that should be a priority to fix. We have business impact. What will happen to your business if you do not fix these vulnerabilities? And finally, we have remediation, just countermeasures and best security practices to put in place. And questions we want to answer for you guys is, why should I even care that I have vulnerabilities on my systems? And two, how much money are you guys going to lose if you do not fix these vulnerabilities? And with that, we're going to pass this off to Caleb.
Thanks, Dylan. So in this case, we'll start off with a brief overview of our assessment. And in doing so, entering this penetration testing assessment, our team entered with three main goals. The first was to reassess vulnerabilities from our previous assessment to assess and to analyze how RAKMS had adjusted to our recommendations in our previous assessment in October of the last year. Second, to test for new vulnerabilities to see how the new system had worked, especially with our extended access to RAKMS systems. And last and finally, to test RAKMS's compliance with different government and compliance regulations. Now, to give a brief overview of our findings, we spent about a cumulative number of 16 hours with access to RAKMS systems, and during which we found that about a third of the vulnerabilities that we had identified in our previous penetration test have been remediated or completely removed from RAKMS systems. However, on the other hand, we also identified that almost 2/3 of the vulnerabilities, or in other words, 15 vulnerabilities from the previous penetration testing assessment have been found on RAKMS systems. But also, in addition to that, we identified 13 new vulnerabilities that we'll discuss later in this presentation. Before we get to that, Nathan will address some compliance issues.
Thank you. So compliance is arguably the main backbone as standards for security. We need to make sure that our networks are up to standard before we can begin to properly defend not only ourselves, but also our consumers' information. And as RAKMS is an airport, it must adhere to TSA security directives. And throughout this time that we found that RAKMS was lacking in a lot of regards for compliance. We found that the cost of fines would range between $420,000 to $484,000 in fines alone, estimating the average around $442,000. And that's just for monetary fines alone. This doesn't even begin to adjust to things that are hard to quantify, such as a loss of business trust or relationships with consumers. And throughout this time, we found 13 compliance violations throughout the network that negatively impact the company's security posture. And throughout these findings, the most common one that we found was a lack of access controls towards applications or just access in general. Like, the most common one we found was no multi-factor authentication on accessing apps such as Exchange, which is incredibly dangerous for your organization, as soon as we get credentials, we can log into your Exchange, impersonate people, and just steal information out, which is incredibly dangerous. And now on to Bryce.
Thank you, Nathan. So, for our technical findings, these were the 4 top technical findings that we found during our engagement on RAKMS networks. As you can see, each of these are scored on the right using the Common Vulnerability Scoring System Calculator, which takes into account factors such as, is this easy to find, is this easy to exploit, and how sensitive is the information that an attacker gets once it is exploited. The higher the score typically means the worse business impact it has on the business, which Jacob will cover more in the next section. But as you can see, all of these are criticals, with the top one being a 9.8, which makes it incredibly dangerous for RAKMS to keep it on its network. So all of these should be remediated promptly in order for the customer safety of RAKMS and the organizational safety of RAKMS. Now, for those of you who like statistics, this is actually a very neat chart of the vulnerabilities that we found. We found 29 total vulnerabilities, with 14% being critical, 34% being high, 28% being medium, and 24% being low. Again, it is important to iterate that you should have your teams remediate these vulnerabilities as soon as possible in order to protect the customer safety in RAKMS and RAKMS, the organization itself. Now, I hand it off to Jacob to talk about the business impact.
So another big reason why our companies are hired into pen testing network is to find the overall business impact. For most of you people here, for the VIPs, you really care about how does this affect our business? What is this going to look like for us in a more tangible way? For the first part, customer trust and the business reputation will be damaged and lost in an event of a breach and security incident like this. You know that as an airport, you rely on your customers for the profitability of your business. No customers means no money, and no money means no airport. In addition, to deal with the compliance violations and fines that will occur in such an event, that is time and money lost spent dealing with those fines. And time and money spent on dealing with compliance is time and money not spent on furthering the business and improving the airport even further. All of these then wrap up into the overall productivity of the RAKMS airport business. The lack of time and money spent dealing with this is an overall decrease in the efficiency and productivity of your business, and being able to remediate these as soon as possible will help to secure your organizations both in the financial and also in the customer trust areas. To talk a little bit about what you can do right now and as soon as possible, we have Michael.
So, next slide, please. To remediate the first vulnerability, our team recommends disabling anonymous LDAP bind. Additionally, it is crucial that you restrict the description of user profiles in Active Directory. This is because our team can use LDAP to retrieve things such as plain text credentials from these user descriptions. Furthermore, we suggest that you improve network segmentation by completely restricting communications between hosts on the different networks. We also recommend changing default passwords, following CSS standards with passwords with at least 16 characters, and using password managers. Finally, our team recommends that you implement HTTPS in web servers to replace the HTTP protocol so that the communications between sites are encrypted and user data is protected.
Excuse me, what is LDAP?
So that is Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It's a technology used in Active Directory.
To add on to that, it kind of holds a lot of information within your company network. So when we were able to log into this, we found like users, emails, domains, things of that sort.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, it was a very, very solid job, guys. I noticed that you assigned kind of a risk based on the CVSS score, and I was reading an article the other day that was talking about the limitations of CVSS, that it's good about severity, but it doesn't really get into the risk to me, my organization. So do you guys do any extended analysis on that, of how just because it's severe doesn't mean that it's high risk for me?
No, that is a great question. So